Welcome to Savage Simplicity Storytellers, where I talk with smart women who are doing smart things to build lives that work for them. I'm your host, Bernadette Hill, and today I'm thinking about how powerful it is to watch something grow. From bare soil to a thriving garden, it takes vision, care, and a steady hand to cultivate beauty from the ground up. But imagine doing that, not just in the earth, but in business, as a woman in one of the most male-dominated industries there is, the landscaping business. Today on Savage Simplicity, we're digging into what it really takes to plant, grow, and sustain a woman-owned landscaping company right here in Benicia, California. My guest, Paula Knox, is owner of Gardens of Eden Landscaping, and she turned her passion for beauty and customer care into a thriving business that's redefining what leadership looks like in the trades. So as you listen, I invite you to think about the roots of our own community, the local businesses that keep Benicia blooming, and how we can each play a part in watering that growth, especially for women-owned businesses who are building beauty, one garden, one block, and one dream at a time. Welcome to the podcast, Paula Knox.
Thank you, Bernadette. I'm happy to be here.
I am so excited to talk with you today. You have worked on my lawn, my landscaping, and that's how we started a connection.
I did, yes, and I'm so glad that you and Grant are happy with it.
We love it. I am so impressed with how things have started to bloom and grow, and it's really low maintenance, which is exactly what we wanted. Low maintenance, but beautiful.
Wonderful.
Well, I'm happy that you're on the show today, and I really wanted to talk to you about your business, but also starting with how you got started. You know, what drew you to landscaping, and what finally pushed you to starting your own business, Gardens of Eden?
A friend of mine was the regional manager for a chemical application company, landscaping chemicals. She said, I need somebody to help me turn this branch around in Concord, right? And I said, okay, but I don't know anything about landscaping chemicals. And she says, that's okay. We have the best training in the business. And I said, all right. So I went to Texas for a couple of weeks. And so I came back to the branch and I started selling our services. And in doing that, I met a lot of landscape maintenance providers, companies. And I just thought what they were doing was more interesting than what I was doing. So when a branch manager position became available, I went for it and I got hired and I really liked it. You get to work outdoors, you get to make people's landscaping look the way they want it to look. And it's just really satisfying work. And then Brightview came in and bought this little company I worked for. And I went, ooh, yikes, I don't want to work for Brightview. Mm-hmm. But in that year and a half that I'd worked for this company, I had met other company owners, Sharon Hansen specifically at Serpico. And she called me the day the sale was announced to the employees. And she says, hey, she said, well, come and talk to us. I've got a position open. Let's see what we can do. And that started 4 very happy years at Serpico. I really enjoyed being there and learning from Sharon. And really learning how to be a woman in the industry. Sharon was the kind of boss that said, if you're right, say, I'm hassling you about this, and make sure you use air quotes, Paula. I'm hassling you because this is important. So let's go ahead and get this done. And she said that most of the time, men don't listen to women because women allow them not to be heard. We allow ourselves to be ignored. To push back and say, this is important, and I don't appreciate your condescending tone. That is like a cardinal sin for women in business. But I recommend that you do that. Mm-hmm. The same way that you accept criticism and act on it, you need to expect others to do the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. Without being defensive or condescending, right?
Yeah. So when you were, so you just said, I didn't go to school to study to be a landscape. When I was a kid, that wasn't my dream, right? To own a business, a landscaping business. But was it your dream to own a business?
The more time I spent in the industry, and Brightview really hammered this home for me. Brightview is a huge multinational corporation, and they answer to stockholders, not their customers. And I thought, man, I could stay at Brightview until the wheels fly off and then figure out what I'm going to do. But what I was most concerned about was my reputation, right? I had worked all these years with property managers and homeowners associations, um, to build a good reputation, because you only get the one, right?
Right.
So I didn't want to ruin my reputation so Brightview could deliver to shareholders. So I
Yeah.
decided to go. And it took, at first, we were just doing a few maintenance jobs, and then we got more design jobs and installations and things like that. Um, until now, this year, we're pretty self-sufficient, which is
Hmm.
great. The business has its challenges, but I love it.
Hmm.
I just I love taking a space that's been neglected and turning it into something beautiful that the customer can enjoy, and it's maintainable for them. And that's different for every customer, right? You have to have those conversations with your customer. What are you looking for? Like when you and I talked about your design, you've got a small child, so you've got your hands are full. You don't need to worry about the yard. You know what I mean?
Right.
So something that you can just look at and can be cleaned up and pruned on a quarterly basis rather than,
Mm.
something that requires weekly or daily maintenance. So,
Right.
just having conversations with your customers about what fits their lifestyle and going from there. And
Yeah.
it's
So
just,
let's talk about that for a second, because that is something I think you bring that is a competitive advantage to the bright views of the world, right?
right.
Which is, the area. Let me give you, so one example is I wanted to put star jasmine in our trellis. And I
Yes.
love star jasmine because it smells amazing, it's beautiful,
That's
et cetera, et cetera. And
great.
you said, this is Benicia, and in your particular area where you live, there's lots of critters. And
Yes.
star jasmine loves, critters love star jasmine, and you'll find
Mhm.
lots of them living in there. So I suggest this alternative, right? And that was something that if I was doing it on my own, or maybe any other landscaper, in fact, we interviewed a few before choosing you. Those we didn't hear any of those types of local knowledge,
No.
right, or
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is one thing. So that's one of the things you bring. So you actually, so far you've mentioned, you were in the industry, you've been in the industry a long time. You started
Mhm.
to see that, your reputation could get eroded by the corporate sort of uh, organization that you worked for, and you
Mhm.
decided to make a leap. That is something that,
Yes.
we've got a lot of women business owners here, particularly in Benicia, and but less than 10% of landscaping businesses are owned by women. Less than 10%. And so this was a big leap for you. What gave you
It
that
was. Yeah.
confidence? What gave you the confidence to make that leap? Because not everybody does. A lot of people say, you know what, I don't love where I'm working, but it pays the bills, and so I'm going to continue here.
Well, I was really confident in my ability to get work, right? And that may be the Gen Xer in me. Like, I'll figure out a way.
That is so
I can
common
honestly,
to the Gen X. I speak with a ton of Gen X, and I'm from Gen X as well. And we
yeah,
often say, like, I tried it because I thought maybe I could do it, and then I was doing it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was confident in my ability to get work. Over the years, everybody in this industry does side jobs, right? And
Mhm.
so, I'm going back looking at my taxes and looking at my worst year on side jobs, how much I made in that worst year just on side jobs. Can I pay all the bills on that? Well, yeah, I can. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And so I formed my LLC and got a trailer, put logos on my vehicle, bought some equipment, and here I am.
Yeah. So wow,
Yeah.
you just decided to do it and you did it. And the compelling reason was because you didn't feel that there was a genuine care for the customer.
No, not at
Um,
all. Not at all. Because if you can't maintain a property to the level that the customer wants it at, then they're not going to let you handle their new installation. They're going to go to somebody else for that.
you draw quite a significant difference of a customer experience between going to a corporate type landscaping
Mhm.
organization and hiring
Yep.
a local person who's done it for years and years and years, has their own local business, uses local labor, and understands the area very, very well. And your main goal is really just to make places beautiful and
Yeah.
maintainable by the folks that actually own the spaces.
Yeah.
You can't put in a high maintenance garden in my home because it would look like a graveyard within 30 days.
Right.
You have to meet the customer where they are and make it as
Exactly.
beautiful, like you said, neat as a pin. And then if we want to build on top of that foundation, we can. And you don't have to
Right.
do it right away. You can do it
No,
over time, which is the
but
beautiful thing about
yeah,
landscaping.
but in the meantime, your property looks presentable.
So you just mentioned some very important, compelling reasons why you got started. Your experience with local residents and clients here and what they're desiring,
Yeah.
right? Your confidence to sort of launch the business even in tougher economic times. I mean, you launched during COVID, or at least right after COVID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's been a
Yep. Yep. Right
five
after.
almost 6 years now that you've now been building this
Hmm.
business and building this life that works for you. But it hasn't been easy, and day to day, it's not. You run into challenges, not necessarily because of your experience or the work that you do, but because there might be some gender disparities that still exist. Maybe folks don't know that you're around.
Yes.
Women make up less than 10% of landscaping business owners nationwide, nationwide, and even
Yeah.
fewer. I
Yep.
mean, women landscapers are less than 10% nationwide, and less than fewer than that are business owners. So you're in this kind of a
Correct.
niche position. What has
Yes.
have you ever faced assumptions, or do you currently face assumptions or bias because you're a woman in a landscaping trade business?
Absolutely. There
Mm.
are when you get invited to bid on a job through the city or with a property management company, you go to what's called a bid walk, right? And I went to this bid walk, and they give you information about the job, right? And then you walk the site so that you can take your own measurements and photographs and that sort of thing. And I asked the guy a question, and he said, "Who are you here for?" And I said, "Gardens of Eden Landscape." And he said, "Well, why don't you send one of your field guys back site?"
Wow.
I said, "Sir, respectfully, I've been doing this most of your life. So if you could just answer my question, I would be thrilled."
Hmm.
It's just so irritated. I mean, it didn't occur to him for a second that A, I would be experienced, B, knowledgeable, or even in a position to be there. He thought that they had sent the admin out to do a big walk.
Why
I
is
mean,
the secretary here trying to do this walk?
exactly. And the worst part of it was that he didn't even have the good sense to be embarrassed about what he'd done.
Hmm.
There were several other people there that actually gasped when he said, "Why don't you send a field guy back out?"
Hmm.
So there is that assumption that that people they just naturally make, which I quite frankly I don't understand. I have a uterus, so I couldn't possibly know anything about this. That's
Yeah.
silly. So yeah, we do run into that a lot. We'll have homeowners come out. They want to talk to the crew about getting service. And so I'll pop over and go, "Hey, I can help you with that." "Oh, I just wanted to talk to this guy." "Well, why do you want to talk to that guy?" he can't get you service. I can. I can
Yeah.
take care of that for you. So, and that is almost always men. The
Hmm.
women will ask, who's your boss? Right? Because they don't know. But the men will just assume that it's a man and not
Yeah.
me standing right there with the logo on my shirt. So yeah, it's frustrating. And when we make a recommendation about something, I'll often get people ask me, well, what's your educational background? And I said, well, I took a bunch of horticulture classes in college, and I've got 20 years experience in the field.
Mhm.
Oh, so you don't really know? I don't. Uh,
Wow.
how else would you suggest I find out? It's that
Hmm.
sort of thing. Whereas if some dude gives an answer, it's taken as gospel.
Right, right. A lot of the times, women in any industry, but
Yeah,
trades especially, it's like, what? Give me
yeah,
all of your bona fides. I don't know,
yeah.
bona fides, I guess is the way you say that.
See,
And a
either way,
man walks up and it's and it's just assumed that they have all of it,
yeah,
or else they wouldn't be there in front of you, right? If they didn't have all of the right
exactly.
credentials, they wouldn't be there.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
quite frankly, if I didn't have all of the right credentials, I wouldn't be here.
Hmm.
It is much more difficult to build a business as a woman in this industry than it is as a man. Fortunately, I've got enough contacts from my time in the commercial real estate, or commercial landscaping arena that I was able to get myself started. But a lot of people are just as qualified as I am, but not as lucky to have those contacts.
Yeah, that's an important. So you just brought up a very important topic about the community.
Mhm.
Benicia's a small community. I mean, there's a larger
Yes.
area, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the San Francisco Bay Area is quite large, but in our
Right.
little tucked in, bedroom community, it's quite
Yeah.
small. There's only
Yes.
25,000 people here.
Hmm.
And we are lucky enough to have, be surrounded by the larger areas of, Vallejo, Martinez, then we've got San Francisco right over the water there, over the bay. Um, but in reality, you're focused on the community that you live in, that you grew up in,
Yes. Yes. I,
and
I will literally run into my customers at the grocery store.
exactly. So how do you
Yeah.
take their, and that's another part, that's another difference in being a small business owner in a community and versus a corporate culture, because you see your customers around, right? And they give you feedback, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And so how do
Yes.
you take that feedback and, focus on continuously improving your business to meet the moment, because a corporate business could go, oh well, you lost a customer, we'll just get another one over here. You don't have that same
Right.
ability, you don't have that same
No,
luxury of just
no,
losing
no, I
customers
don't.
based on bad
Yeah.
decisions or bad work.
Yes.
So how do you focus
Right.
on keeping your quality up so that you can maintain the community network you've got?
So two things. I think that as a business owner, you need to listen to every complaint that you get, um, not through the filter of an owner, but through the filter of, a homeowner. How would I feel if this happened at my house? Right.
Right.
And I think that if you do that, then you'll find that most of the complaints that you get are reasonable and they're also actionable. You can make change based on that. I think that the most important thing is to just take your ego out of it and
Mm-hmm.
just, how would I feel if this happened at my house?
The difference between a woman-owned business and a male-owned business, again, especially in the trades, is that you're already there. Some folks already feel like, I'm taking a chance on this woman business owner, and so if it doesn't go exceptionally well and perfectly, that's it. I already felt like they couldn't do the job, and now they've just proved it. Versus, a company that comes in and just occasionally doesn't, meet the customer's expectation, and that happens sometimes, right? So you get
Exactly.
there's a much greater consequence if you can't meet
Oh,
the
yeah.
customer's
Oh, yeah.
expectation.
Because they'll say that chick doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the supporting women in our communities and supporting women in business in general, and especially in Benicia, right?
Yes.
Um, there are still barriers. We just talked about barriers that exist for women in business, women in the trades, especially women in landscaping, definitely. And what customers and communities can do to support you and support other women. You're not the first local resident that I've had, or local woman and business owner that I've had on the podcast, and you're not going to be the last. And I love the folks of Benicia, our local area, to know, like, hey, these women provide these excellent services, and they're here in our own communities, right? This call to action to support, transform our communities by investing in the local talent in our communities. You know, what would you like to say to those potential customers out there about, you know, giving you a shot and giving you a chance?
You know, I understand that there's trepidation hiring somebody that you aren't sure can do the job. But I would challenge you to ask you why you think we aren't able to do the job. Give us a chance. We'll show you what kind of work we can do. We offer landscape maintenance monthly and bi-monthly service plans. We do irrigation repairs, installations, property cleanups. We can take care of anything that you need at your property. On the outside, we don't, you know, we're not going to rebuild your plumbing or put up a wall or anything like that, but we can do a fence. So, you know, give your local folks a shot.
Many thanks to Paula for sharing her story. It's a powerful reminder that simplicity isn't about doing less, it's about focusing on what truly matters. To everyone listening, if you're in the Bay Area or right here in Benicia, take this as your call to action. Hire, share, and support women-owned local businesses. You're not just buying a service, you're investing in the ecosystem that sustains our community. You can find Paula and her team at gardensofedenlandscape.com, and as always, you can find this and other conversations on YouTube or Spotify at Savage Simplicity. I'm Bernadette Hill, reminding you to simplify, reflect, and keep growing forward.